What's up, guys? Thanks a lot for tuning into Red Pill Philosophy. I am joined by an interesting thinker and writer. He's the author of his new book called How We Became the American Zombies. And in it, well, his name is Max Meeks, and he essentially breaks down the declining state of American civilization in multiple parts. He'll go after the kind of social, cultural elements. He'll go after certain conspiracies and government intrusions. You go after things even like the structure of marriage and divorce rates and all that stuff. He kind of pretty much just breaks it all down in a cohesive, civilized manner. Max, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here.
You know, one of the things you talk pretty in-depthly in your book, that was actually an inspiration for a video I did a few months ago titled The Truth About Happy Hour and Drunken Fun. I remember reading your book and it planted a seed, and then I went on this 7-minute rant.
The truth about happy hour is that you're only allowed to be happy for an hour. Happy hour generally starts around 5 p.m. on weekdays. Why 5 p.m.? Because that's when the average worker gets out of their 9 to 5 job. What, you weren't happy from 9 to 5? Happiness only starts on happy hour?
Happy hour is hilarious because, I've lived totally different lives. I lived in Atlanta, Georgia for years and had good sales jobs, made good money, the American dream. And then I went back to Cleveland, Ohio, which was a much more oppressed city. Their economy was suffering bad. They lost a lot of auto jobs, steel jobs. And in those jobs, all the people would be excited was leaving work at the end of the day and going to happy hour. And I mean, literally, all they would obsess about was their next drunk, the next time they could take that escape from reality. And it was really sad. It was sad to me because I had been somewhere else with a different group of people with a different mindset that believed they deserved decent treatment at work. And then I was thrown into another group of people that were totally oppressed and beat, and just took their beatings and constantly said themselves every single day of the week. And their counterparts down in a healthier economy didn't, and once a week down south, and then it was every day of the week in this different, worse job market. And so really, it stood out, night and day difference when I lived somewhere for years of my life, and I came to believe that that's how life was. And I moved to this other city, and it was like, oh my God, it's horrible, because, you try to throw someone who's had freedom into a situation where they don't have it anymore, and you don't take it. You're not going to, you can't slave. You can't make someone a slave who's lived free for a while. They're never satisfied.
Yeah, you have a natural inclination to resist any and all forms of tyranny. A lot of times I myself on Red Pill Philosophy, I get wrapped up in focusing on the negative things.
The most straightforward advice, if you know you have to drink every day, but you feel like shit at this point, a lot of people eventually they feel like crap. And they know they have to frickin' every day just to make it, to function. They say, yeah, I'm a... But I said in the end, in my final 6 months, I said, I'm a functioning alcoholic. And the positive information is if they want to quit, they can go, to AA, and they can change their habits. And not forever, though. AA is good to quit, but it's not 7 days a week and become a cult. And I've definitely seen people overdo it. But it gives you freedom. After a month, your memory works better. You can remember things. Your reflexes get better. You drop about 20 pounds of water weight. And I talked about that in the book. I remember a guy coming up to me about a month and a half after I quit drinking. And it was a 5-year-old guy, just an average American. And he came after one of the meetings, and he said, hey, do you have Spider-Man reflexes now? And I was like, what? He's like, well, I was brushing my teeth, and I knocked the cup off the counter. And he said, and I caught the cup, before he said, my reflexes are better. And I was like, yeah, I noticed that too. And I mean, people don't realize, in the course of 10 years, how impaired their are after drinking daily. And you're only getting like half the blood flow to your brain. and it really does slow you down. And so the benefits I offer people is that your memory will get better, you know, and also you'll feel things more intensely. Like a beautiful outside will seem more enjoyable, you know, and just
that's the thing. It's this idea that in the end of the day, in essence, what alcohol is, it's a numbing beverage. It's designed to numb
yeah.
you things.
I definitely refer to alcohol as not give a shit in a can. Like if you're in a horrible situation, a horrible relationship, and you don't want to get out ever, just keep drinking the beer every day because you're going to stay there.
Exactly.
It's definitely apathy, canned apathy.
What better way to perpetuate bad habits than to numb yourself from them so you never really feel compelled to overcome them?
Right. That's like the biggest gift, I think. When you quit drinking, you won't stay in bad situations because your conscience will tell you this is terrible. I need to get out of this. You know, and like that's we were born with that. Little kids know the difference between right and wrong, and but if you keep throwing chemicals at it over the course of time, it's shutting down that natural escape mechanism that we have to do what's right, you know, and to not be abused. I don't want to be abused by anyone. And former bosses know this. I mean, I've called many a boss who's been corrupt, you know, and they've made windfall profits. All I've asked them to do is what's right, and if they don't, I call them out on it. You know, so I'm doing that right now with my book on the group of I'm calling out people's bullshit.
Yeah, no, definitely one of the things I noticed in reading. You basically attack things. You go after all the key modern societal components that either cause our depression or are effects of the depression. Like you can say that, you know, getting into a marriage that you enjoy, you can say that in one way getting into is causing misery, but it can be that overall misery that you felt your entire life, being brained with the school system, which stifled you to a degree that you accepted getting into a marriage. So it's a strange kind of chicken or the egg, what causes what. It's pretty interesting. So yeah, another interesting theme that you went after pretty intensely in your book is that of marriage / divorce in general, and the ways in which you know, there's a high divorce rate now. It's no secret. A lot of people are getting married, it seems, for the wrong reasons. To me, it seems like we're getting married because it's like this socially romantic idea that people think is going to bring type of long-term fulfillment. Like we are a society obsessed with that thing far away, the pie guy, retirement, the perfect job, the perfect marriage, the house, the picket fence. We seem to have all these romanticized ideas that we think is going to somehow bring us some kind of contentment that we're constantly looking for, but we can't find it anywhere because this system doesn't provide us with that. It tries to hide that from us, so we keep doing shit we hate to serve someone's dream, as you know, as you articulate in the book. So, you know, it seems that that's what marriage is. And then people get married and they realize that honeymoon, the whole thing wears off, and then they're sitting there like, wait a minute, I'm not happy inside. I was supposed to be happy after this marriage. What's happening? Could you elaborate on that?
Usually people break those contracts, and the biggest example I'd say is like politics. You know, you sign up a politician for 4 years, and the minute they're elected and they have to sign contract to work for you, the second they're in, they renegotiate and they go back on all the promises. We wanted these long-term promises. And human beings have proven over and over again, when we get a contractual obligation for a number of years, we're not very good at upholding that. Things change. And it's true with marriage as well. I think if you love with someone, it takes constant work. And when politicians finally get the signed contract, the minute they have it signed, they quit doing what they were promising you before the contract was signed. You know? All about getting that thing signed. The person who gets into the agreement, so I don't know, I just feel like people do think things are going to get better, marriage, and a lot of times they're not happier after they're married. Pay attention to their friends, family, relatives, other people who they've seen go down in flames, and a lot of times they're also going for financial stability, which no one wants to talk about that because that never happened.
A lot of women nowadays, they know exactly what they're doing. Like they know that if they date a certain man and they marry this certain man, and 5 years down the road they divorce this certain man, there's a good chance they're going to get a pretty steady paycheck every month to pay for whatever the fuck they're going to fucking pay for. So it's a pretty gross system. It's a pretty parasitical institution, as you point out, and it's probably the most disgusting thing I've ever seen, because it is an institution that says it's all about love, but it's full of backstabbing. Right. What a perversion of love.
Yeah, if it's about love, though, you really don't need the piece of paper. I mean, there are examples of famous, there are a few Hollywood couples who have been together for 20 years on paper. If something's really working, you don't need her to do it. And I mean, and you could be before God. I just think they should take away the financial penalties and cut the lawyers out, cut them out of it, and have it be you commit to people, but somehow there's not this financial blackmail involved. All these years of being an adult in the real world, and it's like husbands and wives that are being held for ransom. They don't want to lose half their stuff. You can tell they're with, but they don't want to lose half their stuff, so they stay.
It's evil, man. I mean, and I know people who are married, and I think about. I've tried to convince other individuals in my life to reconsider marriage, and they weren't persuaded, and they went ahead and they did it. And I just hope that it never comes down to that. I hope it comes down to this financial blackmail situation of, you stay with me or I'm taking all your shit. Like, I just hope not, because it's just so fucking terrible. Any other thoughts on that before we move on?
Well, yeah, people, here's the thing: when you're single and out of college and working and stuff, there's things you do. If you want an attractive partner who brings a lot to the table and they're smart and you want someone who takes care of themselves, if you're attracted to people who are physically in good shape, then you yourself, you have to make yourself marketable, and people go after things that are attractive to them, and the second people get married, you see the same thing happen all the time. They quit trying. They're like, oh, I got them, I'm done, and then boom, they gain 40 pounds, and all their bad habits come out, and they can be on good behavior during the whole courtship period of a year and a half. They have depression and anxiety, so they need to take drugs every day, and the drugs make lose their. The drugs do? Oh yeah, they lose their sexual appetite too once they have their depression. The pills make them, right? The pills, if they take Prozac or something, all of a sudden they're not in the mood.
There's a downward from that. The bad habit reinforces bad habit, and then, God forbid, your lover, your partner divorces you. That's going to be a huge blow to your overall happiness, and then you're going to be even more crippled. So now that you and you realize you got to get your shit together, it's that much harder to do it. And getting back on your feet and trying to get out of that cycle, it's sometimes for a lot of people almost impossible. Once the divorce happens, they're done. They just give up on any of that shit.
Right.
They're done.
Then they get cats.
Yeah.
Then they piling up the cats or the dogs, and they take on a new habit of ice cream and cats. And we know this is true. I joke about it because that's what happens. People, but they're terrified of another human being hurting them, and so rather than doing what's risky or takes more work and get rehabilitating yourself, they just go home,
get a cat,
scream, and cuddle with their 3 cats, and that's it.
That's funny because I have a cat, but hold me back. Cool, man. Very cool. Um, well, you know, another another thing that you talk about in your book, which is something that I'm pretty passionate about. One of the things I'm most passionate about is school, but one of the things that I've also talked about before is like medications, like the big pharmaceutical industry. The way that they overprescribe pills to people, the way
Oh
that
yeah.
they they don't talk to you about like, you know, alternative ways to handle your depression. Like, I don't know, maybe lifestyle changes, maybe, you know, maybe
Right.
looking at life in a different way, having a perspective change. It's just like, here's a pill, take the pill, magic pill solution, like a fucking like a weight loss pill. You're gonna burn 20 pounds in you know, in a week. The pill, you take this depression pill, you're gonna be happy in a fucking 2 3 weeks. All of this basically just propaganda bullshit. It's almost like what they're trying to do is, you know, a lot of people who are depressed, these pharmaceutical companies, they feed on the very same qualities that made these people depressed in the first place. You know, the real solution to depression in most cases is to change your lifestyle, is to
Right.
change the things you do, change your habits, change the way you look at things, change your worldview, maybe even a spiritual view. Maybe you got into this, you know, this idea that, you know, after we die, something happens, which may be true. But maybe you need a spiritual explanation in life, and maybe once you have that, you'll find meaning again. These things can be a cure for depression, but what the pharmaceutical companies do is they say, you know what? Most people who have depression, they're suffering from so many internal problems. And one of those things is that people who have depression a lot of times, they don't want to, or they don't know that in life you have sometimes to cure your depression is to face things head on. But the pharmaceutical industry doesn't tell them that. They simply say, here's a pill, numb yourself, dole out the
Right.
feelings you have, which are basically just your alarm bells going off saying you have to change your life. That's why you're depressed. Your mind, your consciousness, your soul is trying to tell you something.
Right.
Um,
Right.
And then so
The depression is a
plays
symptom.
on that. Exactly, exactly. Could you break that down for me, my friend? Because I know you.
Yeah, I mean that's
I
where
know you
doctors
know what you're
train
talking about.
people. Okay, if you go into the doctor, you tell them you're depressed, and the doctor, if they're being honest, they're going to look at you. If they're being honest and going to give you an accurate mirror in front of your face, you've really like let yourself. They're going to say, listen, I can see you're overweight. Are you in a relationship? No. Okay, so you're not finding people you want to be with. Have you ever considered maybe someone wants to hang out with you because, you know, you're 50 pounds overweight and, you know, you have horrible skin and you're not going out in the sunlight, so you're super pale. You know, you don't seem that bright. I don't know, it's just me, but you seem kind of slow. Isn't someone who's like, you know, pale and slow, and isn't that kind of like a zombie? I mean, they're dead. And these people, instead of the doctor telling them, listen, you need to go join a gym, work out 3 days a week, start going for walks, get a little shine, you know, like we're made to be awake during the daytime and sleep at night, like our biorhythm, and all these other animals in nature, besides the nocturnal ones, you know, we're made to just do normal things. And for thousands of years, human beings have been relatively the same size and shape. Suddenly, when 5% of the world's population, which is the United States, takes 80% of the drugs, all of a sudden we balloon up to these big cow people. And you're depressed. And it's like, you're depressed because you're a big fat cow person. You know, doctors, if they were going to be honest, if doctors were going to help their patients, they would be honest with them, shoot them straight, and the person may be mortified by that appointment, and the person may be really disturbed for a day or two, but the next week they might actually go and take the advice because these doctors, the people look at them like they're priests, like they are these high figures who we should really respect. Doctors, unfortunately, have betrayed that.
You know what the problem is? That, as you were probably going to say, the doctors can't make money off real advice. They can make money off prescribing you a pill. They can't really make money off telling you to go, you know, get outside, talk to your neighbors, go for a walk, and improve some of your lifestyle habits. I went to my general doctor for some of the anxiety that I was suffering about a year ago. I went there, and either through his own ignorance or because he didn't care, he simply said, "Here's an appointment. Talk to a psychiatrist, and she'll give you some medication." Well, I talked to the psychiatrist / psychologist. She was like somewhere in between, sort of. And she didn't really, she kept trying to get me on anxiety medication. I'm like, I ain't taking it. Give me some actual help here. And it turns out that she ultimately couldn't help me, and I ultimately had to help myself. I went online and I found research, and I figured out the puzzle that is anxiety. I figured it out. I figured out what it is, what causes it, and actually how to solve it using your consciousness and how you interpret things. Well, a few months after I solved and cured my own anxiety using 5 words, face it and accept it, this whole approach, I went back to my doctor. I went back to my doctor, and I'm like, "Hey, doc," and he's like, "How's your anxiety?" I'm like, "Oh, it's pretty good. I pretty much cured it." He's like, "Oh, you cured it? Was the therapist helpful?" I'm like, "No, she didn't help at all. I just applied a 5-word approach thing, and little by little the anxiety chipped away until it was practically entirely gone." And he was just like staring at me in silence for a second, looking at me, and he's like, "Well, I guess you can't argue with results." So that was it. But I bet you something. I bet that when I walked out and the next patient came in, and if they had anxiety, face it and accept it, and decided to change his medical approach, which he got at school using a degree. He's so smart. He got a degree. He must be smart, right? Yet he's prescribing me total bullshit. He didn't go home, I'm pretty sure, and research it and try to provide alternative medical solutions. He himself said you can't argue with results. So yeah, I mean, going back to your original point, is this idea that the doctors just don't they don't care, they don't have to care, and honestly, there's just not that much money to be made in the self-help version to cure.
My biggest intention with the book is to help friends and family members who people can't reason with otherwise. We all know that if you try to talk to your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, normally family are the fastest to throw the advice of family out the window. They're very stubborn. A lot of times a complete stranger could walk up to them and they'll follow their advice more than they will a family member. And so my book, the greatest intent is to help wake people up and to give them back what's been taken from a lot of them, which is their conscience, their connection to just something spiritual, and not organized spirituality, but a brand of spirituality in which you're going to treat people better. You're going to have compassion, and, to help them forgive themselves. Because a lot of us we've been subjected to impossible to follow rules. You're trained at school, if you do this, then this happens. Then you get out in the job market and you're told, if you do this, then this happens. And a lot of times your ethics have to be completely abandoned to get material success. And this hope, and my intention is to help shatter programming that a lot of people are very programmed, and I'm hoping that I can break through that subconscious programming to have friends and family that you care about get back to where more like they were when they were kids, when they were loving, caring. And I want people to stop projecting what little conscience they do have left if they are someone who has guilt. And if you do something wrong, you're supposed to be guilty. And if you have a conscience, I hate it when the public is projecting their conscience and morals and ethics onto corrupt politicians and bankers that don't have a conscience towards us if you look at their actions. Their actions show they don't care about the tiny, ants that are the public. And so I really want to break through people's disconnected logic. They're not approaching things in a logical manner, and I don't want the group that we're a part of get pitted against one another. I don't want to see a fight with each other when there's a few people with no consciences at all that are picking on the group. I don't like seeing people get bullied, and if no one else is going to stand up for the peon public, then I'm going to be an ant who does stand up to the to the other one.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt, we are in control. We just forgotten it. We forgot it. We don't know anymore. Guys, let me just throw this out to the audience. You guys are in control. You've forgotten it. You've forgotten the power of choices. Like, you have no fucking clue how much power you have to improve your life just in the choices you make. Max, thanks a lot for coming on. Guys, thanks a lot for listening. Leave your comments below.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay in the line so we keep talking about something. And thanks a lot, guys. Stay tuned for the next episode.